Hey there, Merida Cave Diver here, and welcome back for part 3 of this adventure and the big day. And because I forget to say it all the time, please give a like and subscribe if you like what I do, as it really helps the channel grow. Okay, in the last video you saw me perform a solo cave dive where the goal was to stage 2 air tanks along the journey we're about to take today. Today is a big dive, and in terms of total gear that I'll be working with, we're looking at 6 air tanks of 21% oxygen and 2 deco tanks running my typical mix of 50% nitrox and 100% oxygen. In addition, we'll also be taking my Blacktip Tech DPV. The ultimate plan for today is to head to the end of the line, tie off, and lay down some new cave line. But things do not necessarily go as we had planned today. Before we begin though, let's take a look at where we are now. What you didn't see is us dropping off the 2 deco tanks. Our 100% oxygen is tied to a line that we have hanging at 6 meters, and our 50% nitrox tank is tied off at 22 meters. Inside the cave, if you watched my last video, you know that I have 1 air tank staged already just past the first restriction, and a 2nd air tank at the halfway mark. Before I get into the dive though, let's pick this up as we head into the first restriction. In order for me to pass through here, I'm going to need to disconnect my DPV from my harness. I'm also going to be running the footage here a little longer and less edited to give you a better perspective on the feel for this part of the journey because I'm a little stuck. Keep in mind that I'm carrying 2 tanks on my left side and 2 tanks on my right side, so as I move forward pushing the DPV, it's a tight fit. To get through here, the first part of the opening is somewhat vertical, so I need to twist left and then make my way into the middle section of the restriction. Then I need to rotate and turn to the right. Visibility is a bit of a challenge, which I'm getting used to since I'm always the guy with the camera. Okay, so that wasn't too bad. We're out of the first restriction, and you can see me give my partner the OK sign. As I hook up my DPV back to my harness, we're on our way. If you watched the last video on the series, you know that I have an air tank staged pretty close to here for my trip back, and you know that I have another air tank staged at the halfway mark. As we move through the cave though, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the air management plan. On the very first video, we did a scouting dive, and the purpose of this dive was to learn how far in the cave line goes. We wanted to check the integrity of the cave line, and we needed some data on air management. What we learned was the following. If we move at a speed of 3 with our DPVs, we know it will take approximately 1 full tank of air to get to the end of the line. Unfortunately, that also means we needed more tanks, hence the extra staging efforts. Why? Well, the plan is to have at least 1 tank to explore, which means we need to add 2 tanks to the dive. So the math works out a little something like this. 1 tank to get to the exploration point, 1 tank to explore, 1 tank to get back to the exploration point, and 1 tank to get back to the cave entrance. This leaves us with 2 tanks for an emergency and 2 tanks for decompression. As we move up this restriction, it might look a little familiar to you by now. I was here just the day before, and you can tell because the water isn't quite clear. There's still particulates in the air from yesterday. However, as soon as we pass through here, the water will clear up, and you'll see the tank that I left just over to the right of the video. It's a bit of an odd feeling, at least for me, when you discover a tank in the middle of nowhere. I'm expecting to see it, but yet it still surprises me for some reason. In any case, it's a welcome sight to have. At this point in the dive, I'm not going to stop and pick it up because the plan right now is to exhaust tank 4, which is my first tank, then switch to tank 3, which is going to be my exploration tank, then begin the journey back with tank 1 and 2 while picking up tanks 5 and 6. It sounds confusing, but it makes sense when you're there. As we move further into the cave, you're going to see my partner drift off and explore the outer edge. My job is to stay with the line facing the direction of travel and to keep our bearing. A mistake here, especially losing something as simple as left and right, would be very costly. As my partner comes back, he tells me he's found an offshoot, so we decide to stop our forward progression and start the exploration from here. But there's a slight problem. Now, if you've ever wondered if you can hear a diver scream underwater, well, the answer is yes, and for your benefit, I've left it in. I'll pick up the narration after we sort this out. Okay, due to the fact that the camera is on my scooter, there's a lot of footage that you didn't see, which basically involved me pulling out my cutter to help my partner free the line before he just got pissed off, gave me the reel, and used another. First, what did you miss? Well, my partner gave me the reel to sort out, and I ended up cutting the line to break it free. Then I resecured the spool, and I tied it off to the main cave line. Also, as an added surprise, tank 4 decided to go empty, and I spent some time taking it off and securing that to the cave line as well. Keep in mind that tank 4 was almost empty, and we did burn a lot of time screwing around with this reel issue. With all that completed, I checked my bearings and I followed the new cave line that my partner has just laid down. With that being said, you are the first ones ever to see this small section of the world. This cave line that we're putting down here means that we're the first divers to ever be in this space. Honestly, it's hard for me to describe how it feels. I mean, it's not a big deal, right? You're just diving underwater and you happen to be in a different hole than someone else, but to me it's a little bit more than that. I ask myself odd questions when I'm here, like, what was this like when there wasn't any water? Did the Mayans ever come this far down? How long has this place been here? I can't really describe the feeling that well, but what I can tell you is that if you make it down to this place, you are going to see a pink dive marker with the word gringo on it. It's a term of affection that my friends and dive partners use for me almost exclusively. In these parts, I am known as the gringo, or chupacabra blancos, but that's a much longer story and generally shared over some beers. As we push farther into this new space, you're going to see that the cave shifts into a great white cavern, and it keeps going. Unfortunately, we have another problem. We've just run out of line. In a way, I like to think this is life telling us that it's time to go. I still have more than enough air, but hey, why push it? So we tie off our line, my dive partner gives me the empty spool because apparently I'm the gear monkey, and we attach our explorer cookies with a feeling of pride and accomplishment. It's time to head back. As we head back, I do want to take some time to talk a bit about dive partners. The situation that occurred earlier when you saw my dive partner hand me the reel and go solo is not what you would call textbook. I'm going to acknowledge that, and if someone wants to blast me in the comments for it, I get it, and it could be deserved. At the same time, I think it's also incredibly important to know your dive partner, know how they work, know what they need, etc. In that moment, I knew exactly what my dive partner needed, and I knew exactly what he was trying to do. With that being said, I knew that by taking the reel and sorting out that problem for him, it would allow him and us to make progress on the dive with minimal risk. We were above narcosis levels, multiple tanks and regulators for air, he was tied into a line, and I was on the main line. I bring this up because let's be honest, the price of failure is death, and honestly, what is success? A plastic cookie with your name on it? I don't mean to be flippant here. What I'm trying to communicate though is through diving, you will encounter all kinds of scenarios and you will need to make judgment calls. Everyone will have opinions, some will be valid, but ultimately it's up to you and your dive partner to talk about risk, understand each other, and work together. So if you're watching this video and you have thoughts, please share them, but also know that we did evaluate the risk in real time, but largely that was between him knowing me knowing him, and ultimately the knowledge of each other's skill sets. As we get closer to the main cave line, you can see that we're coming up to my staged empty tank and the spool that I fixed. I'm going to place both of these on my partner's tail. Feeling relaxed, calm, and with lots of air, we start the journey back. Here we are at the first staging tank, and for those of you keeping track, I attached this tank to my right-hand side in the bottom position. So currently, I'm full on tanks 1, 2, and 4, but breathing out of tank 3, which I recall is close to empty at this point. From here we go down the restriction and continue back. For the most part, everything is going as planned, but I'm getting a regulator free flow situation from tank 4 that I'm noticing. I'm also noticing that it's not constant and only happens when I'm on the throttle with the scooter. So what you're seeing here is me dropping to a clear patch so I can stabilize myself while I attempt to fix the free flow situation. Best I can tell, it's coming from the redundant regulators I have on tank 4. It's not an issue, but something that I can't let continue. With that situation fixed, I carry on. A little ways further, we come to the last staging tank. As I prepare to pick this one up, I take off my current tank 3, store it appropriately, and move it to my partner's tail. Then I pick up this tank and attach it to my left-hand side bottom position. At this point, I'm breathing from my new tank 4 with tanks 1 through 3 full. And into the last restriction we go. I'll save you the more or less dead space of us traveling to decompression, but overall this was a very successful dive. We had some unexpected challenges, which honestly you should always expect. We managed them, worked as a team, and explored a small new piece of this cave. As per usual, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed this series overall. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, I'd love to hear from you, and thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please don't forget to give it a like and a subscribe. Thanks for watching.